I think Kody and Janelle were trying to kick me out. They have no problem cutting her out and letting her just take.
I do not agree with things that he does. I do not agree with his attitudes.
He regrets not apologizing for saying that you were not attractive.
Your wife's having an affair and your other wife tells you. That's my business.
For years, Leon remained silent, publicly constrained, and rarely participated in the media circus around their father's continuous decline into narcissistic delusion. Kody Brown used his son's death to improve his public image, and his children are done playing along. However, something changed. What ultimately motivated Leon to speak up is the question. There has never been anything remotely covert about Kody Brown's actions. Kody has mastered the art of self-victimization, as evidenced by his years-long history of berating his original spouses and his absurd attempts to rewrite history on every reality TV platform that would still book him. However, the stakes shifted with Garrison's untimely demise. The family's sorrow exposed a reality that many had attempted to hide. Kody's neglect was not only upsetting, but also harmful. With a microphone and a martyr complex, Kody went on to the newest stage, Special Forces. Instead of providing any accountability, he chose to do a poor job at an audition for Father of the Year. The show did not cover up his immaturity, but rather brought it to light. What appeared was a man clinging to his conservative man-of-the-house identity as if it were still 2002, acting like a whiny adolescent caught in a middle-aged crisis. Kody didn't become a red-pill patriarch overnight, of course. He was always one. He was only marginally more adept at hiding it under a staged facade of multicultural allure. It's long since cracked that mask. Even his once loyal and silent children are now publicly opposing him. Leon's remark was a long overdue reaction to years of deceit, abandonment, and historical revisionism, rather than a casual jab. Not to mention the ongoing, unsubstantiated accusations that something happened at Garrison's burial that was serious enough to sever Mykelti's remaining bonds with her father and his perpetually sobbing companion. It would make perfect sense if Leon's decision to speak up was also reinforced by that event. Imagine your father ghosting you in private while publicly bemoaning the strained family dynamics he contributed to. Imagine him regularly claiming in interviews that he has contacted all of his children, even when he hasn't. Not to you, not once. The falsehood eventually becomes intolerable, not merely angry. Not only can Kody change his past, but he also wants his kids to follow his lead. He portrays people as resentful, unappreciative, or damaged when they decline. In the past, when just his wife were resisting, that story could have succeeded. However, his children, whom he emotionally abandoned long before the cameras rolled, are now coming forward. It's not for attention either. It's because they're sick of being a part of a lie and the gaslighting has gone public. Leon has consistently demonstrated a strong sense of loyalty to their siblings, particularly the elder ones with whom they grew up. The last insult must have been witnessing Kody use Garrison's memory to repair his reputation. Even the most mistreated child eventually comes to the conclusion that enough is enough, particularly when the father who used to disregard them is now trying to make money out of the suffering he caused. Therefore, no, this was more than a single remark or appearance. It was a slow-burning betrayal interspersed with sorrow, hypocrisy, and the broadcast hallucinations of a man who has yet to acknowledge the harm he has caused. Leon, too? They've just made the decision to speak up. At this point, referring to the Sister Wives reunion episodes as tell-alls is akin to calling a damp napkin a sponge. Good. The tell-all protects him. The tell-off would destroy him. The same flimsy post-season wrap-up is presented to fans year after year. Kody Brown sits comfortably while a lackluster host asks softball questions and kindly backs off the moment he begins to pose like a trapped grizzly. The lies are repeated, the formula is known, and worst of all, nobody is ever held responsible, least of all Kody. In reality, the audience needs a tell-off. A full-fledged, no-editing, gloves-off showdown in which the separated children and original wives stop dancing around the harm and just say what has to be said. In actuality, Kody has been on camera for more than 10 years, crafting a weaker and weaker story about his marriages, parenting, and obvious partiality. And each season, we watch as the host gaslights his way through yet another emotional journey while nodding compassionately. Let's face it, nothing revealed his attitude toward women more blatantly than his time on Special Forces. The mask came off the instant he was taken out of his comfort zone. On full display were the haughtiness, the contempt, and the complete incapacity to tolerate being questioned by anyone, particularly women. Despite this, we get another sit-down where Kody dismisses his critics with a condescending shrug, and the presenter just lets him instead of using that as a starting point for some long overdue investigation. Instead, picture a reunion led by an uncompromising individual. Even better, invite a special forces instructor to serve as a moderator. Let's see how successfully Kody dodges when real evidence, actual time-stamped and indisputable video, is presented to refute each of his inconsistencies. No one took the parenting test, he claims. In the therapist's office, roll the tape of Robin. He claims to be a loving father. Cut to Leon's remark that he never heard from Garrison again and that he was disregarded at his funeral. No more story, just the facts. Additionally, please refrain from claiming that Kody won't cooperate if pressured. The point is that he acts like a toddler throwing a fit the moment he doesn't get his way, and that's precisely what viewers should witness. No more artificial honor. No more bravado shielded by a camera, just the uncomfortable, unvarnished reality that has been skirted for too long. Allow him to run away. In real time, let the wives roll their eyes. Let's put an end to manufacturing so that the charade can continue. Because these so-called tell-nothings are a waste of airtime and a far greater disrespect to viewers than any previous accusations made against the show. A tell-off would be more than simply entertaining TV. It would be therapeutic. And sure, if every lie Kody and Robin attempted to tell was instantly refuted by evidence, some of us would pay an incredibly embarrassing sum of money to watch it all unfold. Think of it as reality TV's take on a pay-per-view UFC fight, only this time the takedowns would be factual, emotional, and long overdue. Don't fall for Kody's victim act. It's the show's oldest trick. If Sister Wives continues the catfish plot, it may finally succeed in making viewers support the con artist. This specific dead horse has been pounded into the ground after 10 years of reruns and rehashes. Not only is the plot old, it's deteriorating. However, we're trotting it out like it's breaking news once more. Just to clear the air, Kody Brown's behavior doesn't magically get better just because there was one catfish or a whole school of them. The man is still a domineering, deceitful, and self-absorbed manipulator. To be honest, who could blame any of his wives if they were seduced by a nice comment from an unknown person on the internet? Basic decency would suffice after years of emotional neglect. A brilliant con artist would not be necessary. The catfish isn't the true tragedy. It's that Mary chose not to permanently leave after receiving a humiliating wake-up call. Pirates have sailed, sunk, and robbed the ship. It's time to quit acting as like there's any use in going over her humiliation again, unless the intention was to expose the true predator, who wasn't the scammer in the direct messages. Naturally, though, the show will probably bring it up again. Why? Kody must defend his treatment of Mary, and if that means blaming Robin as the alleged whistleblower, then so be it. It has nothing to do with the truth. The goal is to maintain the Kody brand, which mandates that any transgression by his wife be blown out of proportion as betrayal, while his own actions are covered up with phony indignation. The irony? Robin most likely told Kody at an early age. It has essentially been accepted. She may not have planned anything, but that doesn't stop fans or Kody from setting the stage for more poor, betrayed husband drama. It appears that Kody is still portraying Janelle as the most recent traitor, in case the Mary story isn't sufficient. Christine has already received the wife's edit, which brutally undermined the reconciliation. It is now Janelle's responsibility to bear the blame for everything from cosmic imbalance to familial strife. The truth is that Mary was incredibly lonely, emotionally abandoned, and legally divorced. She was attracted to someone online and fell for it. It was the inevitable outcome of years of a one-sided emotional drought, not a sign of weakness. The fact that the man wasn't real isn't the tragedy. The sad thing is that she didn't say, "Sayonara, bitches," right away after learning about it. Because, really, that would have been the most truthful sequence in Sister Wives history. Robin is complicit in the show's deception. In the most recent episode of Season 20, Episode 9, viewers are once again subjected to the same story of Robin Brown serving as the family's moral compass. This time, she and Kody try to fabricate a tale about Robin adamantly defending justice in the Coyote Pass transaction, and supposedly pressuring Kody to treat the other wives equally. It's a handy rewriting of history that smacks more of reputation management than true honesty. To be clear, Robin has never been the advocate for justice that she now professes to be. It is not only absurd, but also blatantly obvious that she confronted Kody on behalf of the other wives. It feels more like a hurriedly prepared script to repair her public image following seasons of criticism than it does like a reality. Furthermore, the performance is not supported by the facts. Thus, the public is not buying it. For example, Robin postponed the deed revisions to Coyote Pass until March, even though the other wives approved them in January. Why the delay if she really cared about equity and justice? Why the hesitation, unless of course she was figuring out how to best safeguard herself? And speaking of those interests, even though Robin was the last wife to arrive and the one who opposed the agreement, the land was divided 4 ways. Robin and Kody receive a combined 50% of that divide, while Janelle, Christine, and Mary receive far less. That is a land grab masquerading as justice. It is not equitable. Robin frequently stressed fairness, not equality, as though the two ideas were synonymous. They're not. Her use of words betrays her desire to keep up appearances without really giving up assets or authority. Her delayed signing is sufficient proof that she was everything but delighted with the prospect of an even division. It's safe to assume that Kody would have been content to leave the ex-wives with scraps and walk away with everything. His haphazard approach to Coyote Pass, delaying the sale, delaying decisions, and providing contradictory accounts, indicates that he was hoping the show would finish so he could divide up the assets any way he saw fit. Robin appears more concerned with appearances than with morality. Rather than being motivated by moral conviction, her sudden quest for justice was probably motivated by fear of public retribution. This idea is well supported by the Flagstaff transfer, which was opportunely scheduled following Kody and Robin's official marriage. It put them in a position to consolidate financial control while pretending to start over. The power play theory is only strengthened by rumors of cancellation back in Vegas. Kody and Robin were ready to leave the other wives with nothing because they had no legal standing. Furthermore, let's not act as though Robin was the only con artist. Janelle, who is frequently portrayed as the practical peacemaker, freely acknowledged that she pushed Kody to take Mary's part away from her. She has been undermining Mary for a long time, even preventing her from accessing the pond property, another territorial tactic disguised as practicality. Therefore, Robin is not the misinterpreted peacemaker. She is a strategic participant in a protracted struggle for dominance and legacy. Additionally, she is seriously underestimating her audience if she believes that a few on-camera tears and revisionist soundbites will be sufficient to change her position in this story. Robin didn't ruin the family overnight. One episode at a time, she smiled as she accomplished it. Despite her hallmark-like soft-voiced cadence, Robin's harm to her family is not the result of ineptitude or naivete. In addition to being a contradiction in words, Kody Brown's preferred wife is also a contradiction in deed, playing the victim in public while secretly planning the dissolution of the exact family unit she professes to value. Let's begin with the most obvious irony. Robin laments her broken relationship with her biological father, whom she says she resembles so much that the separation hurts her. If it weren't so dramatically selected, it would be touching. Because Aurora, Robin's daughter, is the child who truly resembles their biological father and has been shut off from him entirely as a result of Robin's intervention. What a waste of maternal empathy. However, Robin's selective tenderness is just one aspect of her hypocrisy. She successfully exiled her children from both their biological and adoptive families, then had the gall to claim that this was their rejection rather than her own deceit. It's not bad parenting. This is deliberate narrative control. Speaking of calculated, she also meddled with other people outside her own kids. Kody's relationships with the other 13 of his children and their moms have been methodically ruined by Robin. That is deliberate isolation, not passive preference, and it comes from someone who is very skilled at what she does. Not to mention her part in Mary's legal marriage gradually falling apart. After preparing Mary to renounce her position as Kody's lawful wife and enduring a humiliating public controversy, Robin conveniently dumped Mary when her useful life was up. Mary receives the mess while Robin receives the clean image. Call it emotional laundry. Robin views the Poly family as a private bank that she is never required to make contributions to. While feigning powerlessness in the face of the family's larger demands, she has spent tens of thousands of dollars on pleasures for herself. Unsurprisingly, she wanted the money and assumed the other wives would simply give up, so she stopped the sale of the land in Coyote Pass. Robin married a man who had 3 long-term spouses, 18 children, and 7 grandchildren. After adding 5 additional kids to the mix, she started acting as though she deserved all the attention, not simply the majority of it. Her concept of polygamy is shared in theory, monopolized in practice. And then, on national television, her best performance of all, she blames the children, real children, for the disintegration of relationships that she herself destroyed. Not only that, but it's shameless. It's risky. Therefore, Robin is more than just a liar. She is a calculated individual. She is not the foolish idiot that some would want to portray her as. Rather, she is a woman who understands her power and knows how to use it. There is more to her love of money, power, and control than meets the eye. It's the whole story. Here's what no one wants to say about Robin Brown's tears. They don't exist. In the emotionally staged spectacle that is Sister Wives, one would think that Robin Brown, the queen of trembling voices and dramatic sighs, could at least muster up a single tear during her husband's most recent televised breakdown. And she's written herself into the center of it, at the expense of everyone else. However, no, Robin's face was the only dry thing in the room, as Kody Brown bemoaned his broken ties with his kids and dug out unresolved sadness over his father. Even though Robin is capable of delivering a tearful speech about Coyote Pass, yes, the land, she remains expressionless as Kody clearly struggles with years of alienation, not even a quiver of the lips. No hazy eye. It seems that she saves her emotional outbursts for when she is offended or feels irritated. An actress who cries only when the storyline is about her is nearly impressive. Her total inaction during the Garrison events is perhaps more striking. She loved those boys. We were told this over and over again, to the point where Kody is now forced to store a single picture of Garrison in the garage like a lost artifact. She is obviously devastated, though, regarding property lines. To be clear, this goes beyond simple emotional control. Robin cries a lot, at least she makes the faces and the noises, but she hardly ever sheds real tears. It's dry tears. Performative. Not having the physical shambles of true feeling. The idea that Robin has histrionic tendencies has been put forth by some. Although at this stage it feels more like a working hypothesis than a diagnostic, she exhibits the characteristics. Intensely emotional outbursts that are solely related to her own story, a seeming incapacity to empathize with the suffering of others, and an excessive need to put herself first in any circumstance. Her sentiments only come alive when she is the sufferer, the martyr, or the one being betrayed, not because she lacks feelings. Kody appears to adhere to this emotional model as well. When he wept over Garrison, it was for his own sorrow rather than for his son. His feeling of loss, his status as a father who has been injured, when the story is about him being harmed rather than his children being estranged, the tears flow. Again, symbolically rather than literally. This leads us to the most ridiculous aspect. These two are unable to cry even when they attempt to. Pay close attention. Kody can twist his face in agony and rub his eyes raw, yet he never sheds a tear. Robin's cheeks are still curiously dry, even if her voice is cracking. It's sorrow without substance, emotion without moisture. It says more than any shaky sob ever could in a show that is increasingly characterized by emotional manipulation masquerading as vulnerability. This is what it looks like when a father exploits tragedy to settle his debts. Yes, Kody Brown says he settled up with Janelle in early 2025, as if that statement didn't scream of purposeful ambiguity. He presents it, of course, as reimbursement for the money she contributed to Robin's home, the notorious symbol of marital inequity. Let's face it, though. He wasn't taking money out of his own pocket. The actual origin? The sale of Garrison's home, probably. Shortly before this purported settling up, on December 26, 2024, Garrison's house sold. A forensic accountant is not necessary to make the connection. It's possible that Kody's method of paying Janelle was just stealing his share of his late son's belongings and passing it off as kindness. Remembering how military perks operate is important. After serving, Garrison would have had a life insurance coverage, usually worth about $500,000 for only $31 a month. The only beneficiary named on the document was Janelle. Additionally, as military personnel must fill out a will prior to departure, it is reasonable to presume that Garrison's estate contained explicit instructions. Spoiler alert, they probably didn't mention Kody Brown. One may remember a particular sight at the memorial, Robin sniffing around as if she were more concerned with the administration of the estate than with mourning. It is curiously appropriate that Janelle's life insurance payoff coincided with her unexpected capacity to finance the construction of a house in North Carolina, long before the Coyote Pass property sold. But don't worry, a patchwork of names on the title, including that of Robin's mother and adult son, securely secures Kody and Robin's $2.2 million McMansion. Even for Kody, the notion that he would profit from his son's estate following years of absentee parenting is morally repugnant. A good father, even one who was hardly there, would have given the woman who reared that boy every cent. However, the Brown family's economic strategy isn't exactly based on decency. Here we are then. Janelle's receipt of her own son's life insurance is retroactively framed by Kody as a debt repayment. It's not a repayment. It isn't respectable. It's spin. They traveled to New Orleans and consumed bugs, which is disgusting. Crickets. This is a gastronomic crime. There's a certain art to going to one of America's most famous culinary cities and eating bugs. Not in humor, not metaphorically, real bugs. More specifically, crickets. Naturally, the first thing that comes to mind when one thinks of New Orleans is a bag of truck stop novelty insects. New Orleans is the birthplace of gumbo, the temple of crawfish ouffé, and the site where red beans simmer with reverent respect. At least geographically on brand, alligator sausage was chosen. However, everything else? A dull procession of culinary tricks. No gumbo, not a single po' boy, not a beignet, no muffulettas, no hot crawfish, no fresh oysters, not even a simple meal of rice and red beans. The cuisine recommendations from New Orleans seem to have come from a petrol station 3 states away. Oh, indeed, they were able to depict a hurricane, not the weather, but the drink. But even that was a box to be checked. Furthermore, the brief appearance of the crawfish might as well have been stock video, due to how quickly it disappeared. The remainder was an odd buffet of, let's pretend this is adventurous eating, rather than the deep, nuanced, and centuries-old cuisine that Louisiana is famous for. The entire event smelled more like a corporate retreat than a true local experience, which just made indigestion worse. Maybe a girls' trip disguised as a Plexus convention. These were sales representatives devouring insects while feigning that this was culture, not PTA mothers bonding over beignets. Furthermore, it seems that Janelle, bless her taste buds, kept drawing comparisons between the bugs and something she discovered on a restroom floor. She was correct. We don't eat bugs. As many native Louisianans would have said, that's bait. In a city that virtually exudes flavor, there's no justification for ruining a cuisine tour this horribly. A po' boy at Parkway would have left everyone with their appetite and dignity intact, and he costs less than a bag of novelty crickets. Order the BBQ shrimp instead of the bugs the next time if you want to surprise folks. When Robin Brown first used the term girl games to describe the dynamics between the original sister wives, she wasn't just deflecting. She was laying the foundation for her favorite pastime. Strategic victimhood, carefully wrapped in the language of submissive femininity and whispered martyrdom. At least then, the horror will be for all the right reasons. Here's what no one's saying about Robin Brown. She's not the victim. She's the strategist. The conversation that must have occurred between Kody and Robin following the Coyote Pass sale can be nearly scripted. It's the point at which emotional tension was dealt with Robin's typical tactical spin rather than introspection. Confused by the absence of festive spirit, Kody probably sought clarification from his closest friend. Breathless with revelation, Robin says, "You're a man, so you didn't see it." A true dude. It was a girl thing, too. I could feel their animosity like a tuning fork for cruel girl energy because I'm so in tune with my delicate femininity. It's not just ridiculous. It's a well-crafted story. By acting as though she is more than just a woman, Robin elevates herself. Soft, shy, and pure, she is the only real lady. The others? Bullies. Not safe. Influencers who are emotionally irrational and dare to question St. Robin's benign rule. According to her reasoning, the ex-wives are dangerous if they are mean. Unless, of course, they are Robin's own carefully sheltered offspring, whose function is to be blissfully unaware and forever innocent. They too become endangered if the adult children support them. Robin is able to portray any opposition as emotional violence thanks to her gendered narrative. The original wives' annoyance is rebranded as girl games, a term that is used to denigrate and infantilize them. Robin, on the other hand, rises above it all, shrouded in subservience, and is adored by her self-described alpha male, who seems impervious to manipulation. Unless it comes wrapped in a facade of modesty and muttered self-pity. And Kody is living in a fantasy world. A man who is so fully enmeshed in alt-right, alpha male drivel that he believes it is emasculating to challenge his authority. But let's not act like he was the only one who did this. Robin is co-writing the script and is not merely a bystander in this hallucination. Her deliberate use of misogynistic rhetoric has a very clear purpose: to retain victim status, consolidate control, and recast the breakdown of the family as everyone's fault but hers. In contrast to the OG3, who appear to have real relationships outside of their shared experience, Robin's distaste for drama is strangely selective, given that she has never presented a single friend on camera. It's all very strange for someone who claims to detest fakery and girl games. Robin's only pals appear to be those who sit quietly in glass cabinets with thousands of dollars worth of accessories and a vision of simple obedience. Not to mention the incident at Coyote Pass where Robin hated everyone else for doing the same after refusing to get out of the car. The game is exactly that. virtue disguised as victimhood. She just does it better. She doesn't transcend the drama. And how are these dynamics gendered? One more manipulation? A smokescreen. Like everyone else, Robin enjoys playing games, but hers are shrouded in selective self-awareness and sanctimony. What about her assertion that she speaks Kody? In other words, she gives him precisely what he wants to hear, particularly when it preserves her throne. There is no lack of dysfunction to analyze in the ongoing disintegration of the Brown family, but if the mid-season preview is any indication, Kody Brown still believes that the best defense is a bad offense, preferably thrown in front of a camera. Marrying into a family with 3 wives and then acting scandalized by female dynamics isn't a rejection of girl games. It's the ultimate play. Kody dismisses the well-worn allegation that Janelle was attempting to defraud Mary of her portion of Coyote Pass once more. Given that he earlier deemed the Coyote Pass crisis over, this accusation is odd. Therefore, unless deliberate deflection is the aim, why bring it back into the spotlight? On camera, no less, Kody's history of manipulating reality to divert public attention is lengthy and colorful. He has previously told a story about how one of the initial spouses left him in financial devastation. Not long ago, he made same claim against Janelle with little proof and a lot of dramatization. However, Janelle is also subject to investigation. She deserves a fair amount of criticism for her long-standing silence on the family's unequal spending patterns. She acknowledged that she had witnessed Kody and Robin making extravagant purchases as far back as the days in Las Vegas. But she remained silent until much later. Before the spending spree ultimately reached her, one could claim that she acted as the obedient foot soldier. Retroactive worry seems a little rich now. Let's also talk about that spending. Robin is showcasing her Dior bags and jewels while Kody spends outrageous sums of money on ugly artwork that nobody requested. This is an obvious instance of financial bias that goes beyond simple taste or lack thereof. No other wife, either current or former, have been observed engaging in anything approaching that degree of indulgence. There is a lack of trust everywhere right now. These people's discrepancies become more obvious the more attention they get in solo confessionals. Everyone is vying for position at the final TLC cash trough, making what used to be multiple family dynamics feel more like a slow-moving financial and emotional grift. Despite her likability, Janelle frequently holds off on taking a stand until her personal safety is in jeopardy. The curtain lifts then, and only then. Robin conveniently postponed until March, probably in an effort to control the story or whip together a last-minute NDA, while she and Mary both completed the Coyote Pass paperwork early. Given the impending release of another book, it wouldn't be the first time Robin worked behind the scenes to make sure her version of events held true. The most startling aspect, though, Christine and Janelle left the house and the money they had invested, which included contributions from their family account and side businesses in addition to TLC. Kody and Robin, however, continue to act as though they have the right to spend any money that the original 3 wives deposited. Kody frequently asserted during his breakup with Christine that he and Robin purchased her furnishings. Christine, for her part, just smiled and admitted the lie. Not surprisingly, the children of the first 3 spouses have called this a cult, because that's exactly how it feels. A closed system where devotion is expected, dissension is penalized, and the truth is whatever the ruling couple says it is. Now that they have lost 3/5 of their income and the original wives' support, Kody and Robin are on the verge of financial ruin, drowning in champagne illusions and a beer budget while living in Dior. The irony? They lack taste, even with their extravagant spending. If there is any lesson to be learned from this train wreck of a show, it is that the best course of action would be to leave while their reputations are still intact. However, that would necessitate self-awareness, which is even more scarce than their diminishing finances. He calls it fatherhood. His kids call it abandonment. The family men of Sister Wives, one-on-one, Randall, Andrew, Rav, and Eric, appear to be truly committed husbands and fathers on screen. Kind, attentive, and emotionally accessible. For this reason, it is almost comically tragic that during their short 10-day filming stint, they seemed to respect Kody Brown. They just knew who he posed as. They had no idea who he really was. And in typical Kody form, that mask lasted long enough to sell a weakened version of himself to gullible people. Andrew sits across from Kody during post-show interviews, listening to vacuous statements about reaching out to his children, and pictures so far removed from reality that it verges on comedy. As they describe instances of Kody being superficially friendly to his co-stars, hosts Sean and Gia even give a slight nod. He's been giving the same performance for years. Controlled vulnerability, hazy remorse, and just the right amount of charm to steer clear of conflict. And some people appeared to buy it once more. What would happen, though, if they read the sections of Christine's book that describe the real Kody Brown? The one who, while doing laundry at Robin's house, abandoned his teenage daughter to take care of a seriously ill sibling. The same man who said that Isabel needed too much emotional support over the phone and wouldn't even sing to her following her big operation. After the divorce, these things didn't happen. Even though this was Kody Brown before the family's legal troubles began, his lack of interest was astounding. After witnessing Gabe silently describe the day his father forgot his birthday, would those same cast members still nod in agreement? Or Garrison's hardly concealed anguish when he remarked, "Dad prefers them over us?" Or Gwen, seated at a table, wondering what it would be like to have your own father adore you? Or Maddie sobbing, lamenting a relationship that never really existed. Leon, on the other hand, recently completed Kody's "I've been reaching out" story. Just the harsh, unvarnished truth. No spin or ambiguity. Kody's desire for the world to perceive him as a father figure is in stark contrast to this reality. Naturally, not everyone gets duped. Pleasant company, not conflict, is rewarded by social rules. People like Kody thrive in polite society by taking advantage of social grace without providing anything in return, since it's simpler to go along to get along. Charm, not character, is what they rely on. But eventually, the fissures become visible. It was obvious that the illusion was beginning to crumble by the conclusion of the shoot. Disgusted, astonished, and blatantly aware, Andrew's face on the vial files told it all. Because no matter how skillfully Kody narrates his tale, his kids' expressions reveal the truth. To be clear, the tragedy of Garrison's death is not Kody Brown's fault. However, he is fully responsible for the emotional harm that occurred far earlier. Like all mistreated Brown children, Garrison bore the obvious burden of rejection. He made no effort to conceal it. "Dad prefers them over us," he said out loud. And that pain, time and camera edits don't make it disappear. There are actual parents who have to make difficult decisions in order to shield their kids from the kind of harm that Kody's casual brutality causes. Once a woman offered her daughter's father the option to actively participate or to remain absent. He went out. And because someone had the courage to cease normalizing emotional starvation, that little girl is thriving 10 years later. Not because daddy left her. Nothing will compel Kody Brown to examine himself, not even death. Subscribe.